Today, I am sitting down with a powerhouse who has spent over 25 years redefining what it means to be a steward of wealth. She is the founder of Every Season Wealth Partner, Elizabeth Delgado. Coming from a Cuban and Colombian roots, Elizabeth has combined a relentless work ethic with a Bible-based approach to financial strategy. Today, we're pulling back the curtain on why your behavior matters more than the math and how to coordinate your real estate and investments into a unified plan, and the exact 3 moves you need to make right now to find foundation clarity. If you're ready to move beyond just chasing a number and start building a legacy that lasts for generations, this conversation is for you. Welcome, Elizabeth, to the Foundry. Thank you so much for being here.
Thank you, Stephanie. It means the world that you invited me. I appreciate it.
Oh, no, I'm so excited to this conversation. I just learned that you are half Cuban, half Colombian.
Being the product of immigrant parents has very much molded me and who I am and how I approach everything in life. And hearing their stories of their immigration and the values that they brought from the countries that they came from is very much my foundation.
I love that. You have been 25 years in the business of wealth advisor. Like, what got you into it?
Well, so it'll be 25 years in April, which is hard to believe because I don't feel like I'm old enough to have been in this business for 25 years. I will say that I initially stumbled into this industry. I was a young mom, and I thought, what would be the responsible thing to do to support me and my family?
Yeah.
And I thought working in the field of finance would be the responsible thing to do. What I realized then later is that I was actually called for this. I started my relationship with Christ when I was introduced to a church that I went to for a long time. And what I realized over time was that this has been my calling all along. I just didn't realize it.
Why helping people manage their wealth or their money? Why was attractive to you?
So when I started in this industry, like I mentioned, it was something that I kind of stumbled into because I thought it was the responsible thing to do. And as I started to learn and grow, what I realized, well, let me back up. So 25 years ago, when I started, it was right around the time of a pretty significant recession that was starting. That was when 9/11 happened, the dot-com bubble bursted, there was an Enron debacle. There were a lot of things that were changing the shape of the world of finance. And I worked for an individual who mentored me during that time. And I remembered asking him, should I call the bank where I came from originally and see if they would take me back? And he spoke words to me at that time that have built the foundation of my practice. He said, Elizabeth, this is when people need us the most. We're not going anywhere. And so what I learned during that time was that we get to walk alongside our clients and their financial strategies, rain or shine, no matter what is happening in life, no matter what is happening in the world, no matter what is happening in the economy. We are there to partner with our clients, support them, and guide them through some pretty significant decisions that they need to make. So I quickly learned that not only was it something that I was so passionate about, but it was something that came naturally to me.
Yeah.
And what I have learned as I've deepened my faith is that when God puts a calling on our hearts, He equips us with the tools and the resources to do the job. And even if we don't have those tools and resources, He provides them. So there are times where I have felt ill-equipped. I have felt like, oh my gosh, I've not been through a situation like this before. And the calling has become significant then when I realized like, oh, I was put in this position for a very specific reason. And when I get the opportunity to walk through financial strategies with my clients, as a matter of fact, my very first client is still a client today.
No way.
We are celebrating our 25th anniversary together later this year. And I have had the pleasure of watching her go into private practice. And then life and all sorts of things happened and lots of transitions. She has now transitioned into retirement. And I've got to walk alongside her all through those various stages in life. She's preparing to get married now. And so it is so incredibly fulfilling to me to realize that I get to bring my giftings that are provided by God and then come alongside these clients and walk through life together. I bring some financial strategy to the conversation and help them to develop their confidence and peace of mind. And then they go off and they live their life that's fulfilling and meaningful to them. So I feel fortunate. I feel like I get to just kind of do fun things all day and spend time with people I adore. And it's something that I feel very natural in.
I think that is where the name of your business came through, right? Every Season Partners.
Absolutely. Yeah. You know, there's a couple of stories behind the name.
Okay.
The first is a biblical reference. In the book of Ecclesiastes, there is a chapter that talks about a time for everything. There's a season for everything. There's a season for dancing. There's a season for mourning. There's a season for everything under the sun. And what I've found over the course of my career is that we were working with clients through all seasons of life. And kind of like I mentioned with this example with my dear client, getting to walk through and watch them go through various seasons has been such a gift to me. And so for us to come alongside our clients and walk through every season, knowing that it's every season that we are called to walk through is incredibly meaningful. We chose the term partners for a very specific reason. We believe in synergy, whether it's a partnership between us and our clients or a partnership between us and other financial professionals. Mm-hmm. We believe that when people come together, there is a magnification of resources that come with that. And when that magnification comes together and happens, then that is where true transformation takes place.
Yeah.
So that's why we chose the term partners.
That sounds, it makes the people feel like the people that work with you feel like you guys are on this together.
Absolutely. So I like to think about personal finance as though it's the majority, say 90% personal and 10% finance. You know, we are all individuals and we have our own perspective, our own values, our own way of looking at the world, our own way of interacting. And so for us, we get to lean into the relationship aspect and really truly get to know our clients and then bring the financial strategies that are specific to them.
For somebody that hasn't worked with a financial advisor before, and they are high income earners and they don't know where to start investing, where can they start?
Yeah, that's a great question and a common one. I think a lot of times people will think about wealth advising as though you must be wealthy to begin. Mm-hmm. And that couldn't be further from the truth. We believe in planning. And so in order to achieve a level of wealth, which I will just define as abundance in one way, shape, or form, it is the feeling of having a sufficient amount of whatever it is, whether it's health or finances or experiences or whatever the case is. But in order to accumulate a level of abundance or a level of wealth, there has to be a plan.
Yeah.
You don't just kind of wake up one day and realize like, oh, I've arrived and now I need an advisor. So I like to suggest that everyone should consider working with an advisor if it's not something that they are doing on their own. I find that when you partner with a wealth advisor, that we get to come alongside and be a sounding board. And we also get to provide some ideas. Perhaps someone has some blind spots and they don't necessarily know where to start. And an advisor can bring ideas. And then the client can try those ideas on for size and decide which ones fit for them. So I don't think there's ever a wrong time. And I think the process of getting started is just asking yourself if working with another professional would be beneficial and providing some guidance, and then finding someone that you trust.
Would you say that even like you don't need to be wealthy in order to have a financial advisor of a wealth advisor. What about like somebody in their early 20s? Is that too early for them to start planning for their future?
That's a great question. I don't think you're ever too early to start planning. I think the sooner the better. So much of it boils down to core values and determining what is important to an individual, and then also the planning part and developing the discipline towards moving toward your goals. There are some investors that work independently and they formulate their own investment plan and they operate on their own, and God bless them. They, if that works for them, I'm happy for them. I find that most professionals, most high-income earners, most people who have multiple irons in the fire, whether it's family or hobbies or businesses or whatever the case is, they prefer to partner with other professionals. For example, we came into the office yesterday. It was raining yesterday.
It was.
And we came into the office and there was a flood in our office. So there was a pipe that had a drain pipe, like a storm drain pipe that had bursted, and there was a lake in the middle of our reception area. And so I have no idea how to identify where the leak is coming from or what the water source is or how to fix it. Mm-hmm. And so I'm going to call a professional who that is their area of expertise, and I'm going to trust that they're going to do a good job. I might ask a few questions to make sure that I'm comfortable with the work that they're doing, but ultimately I'm going to lean into their area of expertise because that's what they do for work. I find that most busy families and individuals or business owners prefer to partner with a financial professional, whether it's in real estate or taxes or wealth advising or estate planning or whatever it is, so that those professionals can come in and point out some potential blind spots or maybe some strategies that they had not considered before. And even if it's from a sense of accountability, to just make sure that we are still moving towards the right, their true north, where they're ultimately trying to go. So I think it's important for everyone, no matter what stage of life you're in.
You talk about blind spots. How can a person know the blind spots, like in regards of finances?
So I have two thoughts about that. First, when it comes to blind spots, they're referred to as blind spots because we don't see them. And I know for me, I need someone who I trust to kindly and gently point them out to me and say, hey, have you thought about this? I noticed that you're going in this direction. This other way might be beneficial for you. So those blind spots are not natural for us as humans to see. Yeah. That's why we need community. That's why we need trusted people around us to help us. So I think everyone should have confidants around them who they can ask, what am I missing? And then the second thing is, as far as younger individuals who are getting started, if they're operating paycheck to paycheck, I would say the first place to start is focusing on building some reserves. Number one, having some funds set aside for emergency, the what-if scenarios, the unexpected, something happened with the car or the water heater or something like that. Having some reserves so that you don't rack up some unexpected credit card debt. That is first and foremost. And then the second thing is it's automation. It's starting to develop the discipline of saving, even if it's a small amount each month. It's the concept of paying yourself first. We all have, as adults, we all have bills that we need to pay in order to live, whether it's a mortgage or rent, utilities, whatever it is. We all have those expenses on a month-to-month basis. If we look at paying ourselves as another line item of those expenses and we develop the discipline of saving, then that discipline is just something that eventually grows and grows as your income increases. Then you might increase your contributions toward whatever your savings vehicles are. And then before you know it, that discipline is already there and it's second nature. You don't even think about it anymore.
What do you think they should do with that money that they are using to pay themselves?
So once the emergency fund is satisfied, and even as that is accumulating, it really does depend on the individual and their tax structure and their the direction that they're heading in, their personal financial core values. But what I would say that everyone would benefit from is saving for the future. And so there are retirement vehicles that are beneficial for saving for the future. Some employees will have access to a 401k plan through their employer. A lot of times those 401ks will offer a company match. That is free money. And so in order to participate in the 401k and receive that match, that is something that can happen on an automated basis through payroll. Another option, if that is not available to the individual, or even if it is and they've already exhausted their company match, they can look at either a traditional or a Roth IRA. That's a way for them to save for the future. And then developing the discipline and saving into either of those strategies is the most important thing.
I wanted to ask you, you have mentioned before the behavior, no knowledge is the biggest driver for long term.
Yes.
Why is it?
There are things that we as humans, I will just say for myself, there are things that I do that sometimes they surprise me. They're just unconscious behaviors. And Scripture even talks about this. We know what we ought to do, but yet we do something different. And so the concept of knowing what is necessary is knowing it in the mind, and that head knowledge is important. But if that head knowledge doesn't transfer to our soul, to our heart, to the actual driver, it's going to be short-term benefit, right? So I look at it like the difference between a diet and a healthy lifestyle. If I put myself on a diet and I say, well, I'm going to restrict my calories and I'm going to only eat vegetables, and clean meals, and I'm never going to have another dessert again, that is unsustainable. I am not going to do that for long. I need my dessert. But if I adopt a healthy lifestyle and I develop that discipline, well, that is a sustainable practice. So when I think about finances, if we try to will ourselves into making financial decisions, surely out of willpower, that will only last for so long. We really have to dig deep into who we are and what moves us. What are our core values? What is it that we are intending to accomplish? Finances are a tool. They're a means to provide. Mm-hmm. They are what is necessary for us to live in this world. But if that is the driving force, without the engine behind it of our values and what we are created to do, we are just a rudderless ship. We are just kind of floating out in the middle of nowhere without a destination. And so our values and having an intimate awareness of our values, that is what pushes us forward toward our goal.
I love that. What is a way for somebody to automate paying themselves?
So one is, like I mentioned, with a 401k, because you can do that through payroll deductions. And that happens through payroll. You don't have to lift a finger. It's done for you. Now, most financial institutions will also offer an automated investment option. And all that means is that you can determine what day of the month you want to have funds pulled from your checking or savings account, and it is automatically delivered to your investment account. And you can also set up your investments to happen automatically as well. I find that there's so much more success when things are automated rather than when we are reactive. Yeah. If I have to decide each month how much I'm going to save, I'm probably going to pick going to the concert or going out to dinner or booking a trip. So left to my own devices, I'm going to probably not think about my future as much. I'm going to think about the here and now. And so I know I see so much success with myself and the clients that I work with, that when we have an automated investment process, that's where true progress takes place.
What are the hidden money beliefs you see most often sabotage even the high earners?
Oh, yes. One of the things that I like to focus on is our money story. So our money story is something that unless we spend some time evaluating it, it can go hidden for our entire lives if we're not careful. Our money story starts when we're very young.
Mm-hmm.
So each of us have observed, witnessed, experienced some sort of relationship with money modeled by our parents, our family members, people around us. Whether we grow up in a home where there's abundance and there's not much thought into how money is spent, or maybe we grow up in a home where there's tension about money and there's arguments and stress related to it. Maybe there's not enough. Mm-hmm. So all of those experiences that we witness and we feel when we are in our developmental years are things that we carry into our adulthood, whether we recognize it or not. And until we evaluate our money story and see where we came from, and then observe how it is showing up in our lives today, it's really easy for us to just continue the cycle without realizing that we're doing that. So hitting the pause button and saying, okay, how do I respond to money? How do I respond to a surprise expense? How do I respond to a windfall? And then evaluating, is that the money story that I want to continue? Or do I need to rewrite my money story? And then it's a matter of taking control, really truly owning our beliefs when it comes to money and where they came from, and deciding what do we want to do going forward? What do we want to continue and what do we want to redo? And having that intimate awareness of that is the fuel that helps you to feel confident that your actions match your values and that you are intentionally moving forward the way you want to live, not what was passed on to you by your family.
With the people that grew up with the scarcity mindset, in regards of they just see it when they were little, they experienced like a scarcity, and now they have made like all of this money, but is still living in that mindset, like that pattern of like collecting, because they are afraid that at one point it's going to stop coming. And for that reason, they are afraid of investing the money. How can they stop that pattern?
First of all, I can relate because like you mentioned earlier, my mother came from Cuba, and she has very vivid memories of the actual physical scarcity that she experienced in her childhood and as an adolescent and teenager. And inevitably, even though she immigrated to the U.S. and was able to establish some stability and security, that mindset still plagued her for a long time. And growing up with a parent who had that mindset, I can't help but it had an effect on me.
Yeah.
And so I personally have that habit of just kind of squirreling away. And so I can relate to those who have that desire to just hold on to it and just kind of keep it set aside. So that is a very common practice. Whether I have a client who has just kind of struggled with having made some, they believe, some financial mistakes. And so sometimes that scarcity mentality comes from the feeling that they may be redirected in a way that they were not comfortable with, and so therefore they have to make up what they lost. What I find is that acknowledging it, realizing that exists in you, and there's something called exposure therapy.
Yeah.
And so the confidence comes by doing things that are out of our comfort zone. And so for me and for those around me who have struggled with that scarcity mindset, it is identifying that it exists, recognizing when we start to have the little heart palpitations, and then identifying, okay, what is one or two steps that we can take that maybe pushes us out of our comfort zone, but just enough where we still feel safe. And then before you know it, you start exercising these muscles that you haven't exercised before, and then it just kind of builds and builds. So I can proudly say that that I have more or less recovered from the scarcity experience that was passed on to me, but those memories, when you have an injury, the injury heals, but the scar remains. So you can look at it and you can say, okay, this is where I came from, and it's healed now, and now I'm going in a different direction.
That is a great example of what you did, because I think a lot of people, they just are afraid of the unknown, and they just prefer to stay in their comfort zone, which sometimes can affect them, not in a good way, just because and more in regards of money. Sometimes it's scary to start investing, but it's better investing than holding to the cash.
Absolutely. If you don't mind, I'll just add one more
Please.
idea to that. That's another reason why having partners around you who can say, I've been there before, and maybe I'm a chapter or two ahead, or I have this knowledge that I bring to this scenario. And I know that I feel so much more confident when I have someone around me who says, I've been there and it's going to be okay. And here are some things to consider that might be beneficial for you. Then suddenly the fear of the unknown, when you are isolated, becomes so minimal or non-existent when you have the comfort and the confidence of someone around you who can say, it's going to be okay, and here are some things you can do.
Yeah, I want to keep touching on that because I feel that I've been talking to a lot of people that they went through a very, very hard financial struggle back in 2020, and they have made very, very bad decisions. Even though they have overcome that, far beyond that bad financial decision, they are still holding to and this might be something psychological, but they are still holding to this bad thing financially happened to me. So they are still holding to the grudge of the financial part, even though they are far beyond that. How can you coach somebody that went through something like that for them to be able to move forward, leave that in the past, and now for them to start making better financial decisions with the money that they have?
Oh, Stephanie, I have seen that so often, especially because, like I mentioned, I cut my teeth during the financial downturn in 2001. And then I professionally lived through the financial crisis of 2007 through 2008, and then COVID. And each of those scenarios were unique. And when you are investing and the economy takes a turn, there's contraction in the economy, which happens periodically. And I emphasize and do my best to engage and educate my clients and let them know that that's a normal part of the economic cycle. We will expand and we will contract, and that will happen while we invest. How we look at it and what we take from that and what affects us during it and our decision-making going forward can be really challenging, especially to your point, if someone has had some sort of struggle with it. I've worked with so many clients who, for example, so during the financial crisis of 2007 through 2009, there was also a housing crisis.
There was.
And so during that time, I had investors and clients who had not only had some challenges with their properties, but also they had invested in second trust deeds, third trust deeds, and so there were some financial challenges that they faced. There were a number of businesses that struggled during that time. And so what I try to encourage my clients through those kind of learned experiences that are so traumatic in the moment is that yes, we went through some hard times. Yes, you experienced some challenges, and we can do things differently in the future. So I try to encourage my clients that not every scenario is going to be exactly the same. You learn lessons along the way.
Yeah.
And so you identify, was there more risk than you were comfortable in taking? Are we truly aligned with the type of investing and your core values? And then once we agree that we're in alignment, then the matter is having the confidence to invest appropriately and then have that discipline in knowing that they're investing well and that we don't have to repeat history. We can do it differently going forward.
Yeah. How do we stop looking at real estate cash flow and investing as three different segments instead of aligning them, all of them together?
Yes. So when it comes to real estate investing, first of all, I'm a fan. I think it's important and I think it's great. But I first start with an individual or family's core values and what is it that they are desiring to accomplish, whether it's home ownership or it's accumulating a rental portfolio, whatever it is that is in alignment with their values, then I like to emphasize the fact that the real estate market is its own separate thing from the stock market, from the bond market, from the commodities market. Every market has its own cadence and its own ebbs and flows, and they all complement each other so well. But you have to find the right type of real estate investing that is meaningful to you. If you want to build a rental portfolio, are you going to be your property manager or are you going to hire a property manager? Mm-hmm. How much engagement do you want to have when it comes to a rental portfolio? When it comes to owning your primary residence, are you staying within your cash flow, and are you making sure that your purchase is well within your resources, and how are you allocating your funds toward your mortgage? Are you okay with carrying a mortgage for 30 years, or do you intend to pay that off sooner? And the interesting thing about working with individuals and families is that everybody has their own unique set of core values when it comes to their finances.
Yeah.
And so there's no one size fits all. It really is truly understanding what the individual needs and what they're comfortable with, and then leaning into that. And then bringing other financial professionals in. I'm not a real estate guru, and I don't do mortgage lending.
Yeah.
Those are areas that are not in my wheelhouse. And so I bring in other financial professionals like you, and then as a team, we can determine what is beneficial for the client.
Yeah, I want to touch, because I love real estate, as you know, but I want to touch on that because I feel there is a lot of controversy in regard of investing in real estate, whether it's for your first home or buying or stop renting and buying a home versus investing in the stock market. What is your opinion in regard of a person that is making good money? They are renting and they could buy a house and pay the same or maybe a little bit more for their own house versus staying, renting, and putting that money into an investment portfolio. Based on your opinion, what would be the fastest way, in a way, for them to build wealth?
Well, I would say that it really ought to be a diverse portfolio. And so when it comes to investing, I don't think that emphasizing in just one strategy is going to be the most beneficial thing. I think having a balance of assets is really helpful, because what happens in an investment portfolio is going to be different than what happens with with the value of real estate or with the cash flow of real estate if we're talking about rental portfolios. So what I like to suggest is first, it goes back to the core values.
Absolutely.
Do you want to be a homeowner or do you want to have the freedom? I have a client who she loves to move around. And so she's back east right now, and who knows where she's going to end up next. And so for her, she would rather not be a homeowner because she wants the freedom to get up and go. Mm-hmm. And so that's not something that is important to her, but building a rental portfolio is. And so knowing her lifestyle and her core values, building a cash flow through a rental portfolio is beneficial, and that complements her investment portfolio. But she probably will never be a homeowner, and that's okay.
Yeah, but in a way she is.
Yeah.
Because she has the rental portfolio.
Yes, that's true, yes.
Okay, I think that is a great answer because there is a lot of debate on that from some people saying that they shouldn't invest like in real estate. They should only focus on the stock market. And I love your point of view because it's true. Like you need to diversify because you don't know which market. Like markets, either real estate of the stock market or the bond market, the bond market, you always fluctuate, and you don't know like which one is going to go down or up.
Sure. Having a balance is important.
Absolutely. I wanted to ask you, when does it make sense to pay off your mortgage instead of investing?
So again, goes back to core values. Some investors, they are A-okay with leverage. They are A-okay with utilizing bank funds and keeping their own funds liquid. And so keeping a mortgage is in alignment with their core values. However, if the mortgage rate is higher than what their portfolio rate of return is, now we have a negative arbitrage. And so that is when you really ought to question, do we really want this mortgage, and how long are we going to keep this high interest rate environment if our investment portfolio is not generating more than what we're paying in mortgage debt? If we have a very low interest rate and or our investment portfolio is on average generally achieving a rate of return that is higher than what we are paying in our mortgage, then it comes down to what is your comfort level and what are your core values. I have clients who want zero debt. They don't want to owe anybody anything, even if the interest rate is next to nothing. They just don't want that pressure of having to pay somebody else. And so they are on track to pay off their mortgage no matter what. I have other clients who say, hey, I have a low interest rate mortgage. I'm just going to keep making my payments because I know that I can leverage my assets through my investment portfolio or buy other property or whatever the case is. But having that mortgage there isn't a headwind because of it. It is something that is a reasonable expense for the benefit of having access to funds.
Yeah, that is so interesting. I am fascinated by it because it's true. Sometimes I am the type of person that my mindset, I might be wrong, but it's good to leverage debt. So as long as you are responsible with it.
Yes, I think you make a really good point, Stephanie. I think the most important thing is that there's balance and that we have safety and security in that because leverage is a good thing when used responsibly.
Yeah.
In fact, we have been talking, we're preparing for some information that we are rolling out to our clients that talks about the difference between good debt and bad debt. Okay. And there is good debt. I am not a believer that all debt is bad. I think when you are improving yourself through education and you take on student debt, that is, you are investing in yourself. When you're buying a home and you apply for a mortgage, that is good debt because you're accumulating an asset that you're going to live in and make memories in, and that's going to be one of your biggest assets. And so having debt that improves your financial situation is healthy. However, there is debt that is unhealthy. And you bring up a good point. Being over leveraged where the cash flow is tight, then that suddenly brings such a high level of stress. And what if all I did with my clients was work on creating peace of mind so that they could sleep well at night, then I feel like my job is done. And so when we're talking about debt, that is the biggest driver. What is it that's going to create peace of mind so that we can sleep well at night? And where's the threshold? At what point do we feel like it's too much? And that really comes down to stability of income, stability of cash flow, and then making sure that we're not over levered.
Would you help, or sorry, let me just ask you better the question. How would you help somebody to have over leverage debt? Like they want to start investing, they have made no good decisions, and they also need help, like getting out of debt. Like, would you be able to help them?
Sure. Yeah, there's a number of debt strategies that can be implemented. But first, it's evaluating what debt you have, where you owe funds to. Is it credit card debt? Is it student loans? Is it property loans? What is it? And then evaluating the interest rates and whether it's a revolving interest or simple interest in these various loans. And then I like to apply the snowball effect, where you take the highest level of interest and you just chunk away. That is your focus, is you are making accelerated payments. And then once you've paid off that higher interest rate debt, then you move on to the next one. And it's certainly not something that happens overnight. And I don't think that we hit the pause button in life. Life keeps happening when we're paying off our debt. So we have that intention and we say, okay, we are going to allocate resources toward this debt and continue that snowball effect until we have achieved the goal. Meanwhile, we are still applying some savings toward our retirement or our investment strategies so that we don't have to do all of one or the other, but there should be prioritization and prioritizing paying off and getting to a comfortable level of leverage is incredibly important.
I totally agree with you. For people, they are high income earners, they have variable income. How can they get in a stable or have a stability?
Yeah, the first thing that I recommend is having some cash reserves. Sometimes investors look at cash as though it's a four-letter word, and I don't think that way. I think that having access to liquid funds brings a level of peace of mind, especially if there's instability of income. So having a little reserve, whether it's for your business or for your personal finances, whatever the case is, that is then there in case something unexpected happens. And then once those reserves are in place, then that level of comfort comes into play where now you can start investing with ease, where you're not spreading yourself too thin, you're not over levered, you're not sacrificing your cash flow. You have something set aside that's not going, so that if something unexpected happens, we're not going in reverse.
Yeah. So somebody, when they want to start investing, they should focus in building that reserve. And after having that, they should invest, or they should do both simultaneously?
There's different schools of thought. I happen to believe that you can do a little bit of both, but I believe in prioritization. And so in a scenario like that, I would say, okay, identify the amount that you are comfortable with saving on a monthly basis, and then allocate a little bit more toward the safety reserves. Don't allocate all of it there. Still apply a little bit toward your long-term savings or whatever your other financial goals are, whether you're saving for a home or saving for a new car or saving for retirement, whatever the case is. I think that you can do both simultaneously, but just prioritizing the thing that is more critical in that moment.
What is your system for how someone should pay themselves while still building the reserve and growing their wealth? Like how much money they should focus in building a reserve? Like what would be a good amount? I know everybody is so different because we all make different income and have different priorities, but it should be like 3 months, 6 months. What is your advice in regards of that?
Yeah. So the rule of thumb is 3 to 6 months worth of living expenses. The way I like to look at it is, are you a single income household, or do you have multiple incomes that are coming into your household? Is there stability of income, or is there fluctuation? And so depending on the level of stability and variability of income, then you might go on the shorter, on the shorter end of the spectrum. If there's inconsistency or just one source of income, now there's a higher level of risk. So I would encourage going on the higher end of the spectrum. As far as how much to allocate toward what resource, the other rule of thumb is to save 10%. I look at it a little differently. I like to set a target and then back into it. So one of the things that I think is incredibly important is really knowing where your money is going. So having an intimate relationship with your cash flow and truly seeing your habits, evaluating, okay, what am I spending each month? And do I agree with, one of my team members led a financial foundations class at her church. And one of the things that we were talking about was how do we establish new financial habits? And I shared that I was going to start a new process where instead of making my purchases on Amazon whenever I felt like it, I would make my purchases only once a week. And that way I would ask myself, do I really need this? And so having that intimate evaluation with your cash flow and seeing exactly where your money is going. And then do I agree with that? Do I want to continue this? Or do I want to redirect based on my core values? And then if I know, okay, the excess is 15% of my income, well, then I can determine, am I going to apply that entire 15% toward my savings? Do I need to increase my emergency fund, or do I need to increase my retirement savings, or am I saving for a new home, whatever the case is? But now I know what my excess cash flow is. And when we do financial planning, so our focus is what is the purpose for the funds? Where are we going? What is the direction that we're heading in? And so in order to identify the steps that we're getting there, we first want to make sure that our needs are met. So our day-to-day living expenses are covered. And then it's our wants, right? What do we want? A travel fund? Do we want, an entertainment fund? Like these are the things that are extra. And then it's the desires, the long-term desires, the legacy aspect. So then we are seeing these mile markers as we are moving along with our financial decisions. And then suddenly saving 15% or 20% or whatever amount it is that we determine that we're saving, we do it gladly because we see what it is that we're saving towards. And suddenly it's not a chore. It's not a nuisance. It's not the diet that's restricting my dessert. It's helping me to see that, I'm making progress toward this goal that I have.
So do you think people should have different bank accounts to distribute those funds, like the wants fund or the needs fund? Should they have different bank accounts for that?
I think it depends on the individual, as long as there's clarity. I think the most important thing is that there's clarity and there's a plan for those funds and that you are preventing surprises. And so we have clients who have various bank accounts for the different strategies. And then we have others who have everything in the same account, but they have an accounting for it. They know that each year they're going to apply a certain amount towards travel. And each year they're going to apply a certain amount towards entertainment or whatever it is that they've determined is part of their goals.
We talked about earlier before we started the interview about being proactive in regards of taxes. You help people prepare for taxes. What issue, like somebody with kids or a family, should be thinking about when preparing for taxes? What are things that they should keep in mind?
Yeah, most definitely. So there's a number of tax strategies that are beneficial when it comes to investing. One of the first things to consider is whether they're saving for retirement. There's two different ways to save for retirement, whether it's through an employer 401k or you do it as an individual. You can save toward a pre-tax retirement account, or you can save toward Roth. Both of those have different tax implications, and depending on an individual or family situation, one might be more beneficial than the other. And so it's evaluating those strategies to see if it's helpful. I also know that that there's a number of clients of mine, and I'm sure clients of yours too, who are business owners. And then it's identifying what are the expenses within the business. Are you making purchases toward new equipment or property? Is there a cost segregation calculation that should be done? Evaluating and being strategic with how someone is investing. The third way is when it comes to generosity. And so making donations to a charitable organization, whether you're tithing at your church or you are donating to a nonprofit, being strategic with how and when you are making those donations. Some investors will donate on an annual basis, and then others like to group their donations into a tax year when they know that they're going to have other taxable income. And so the lumped donation then offsets some of the larger taxable income that they're expecting.
That is a good strategy.
So that's why the strategy should not be just what's happening right in front of us, but we should be thinking about what's to come. What are we planning on doing 2 years from now, 3 years from now, 5 years from now, 10 years from now, so that we can be preparing and strategically making moves that will help us in the future when it's time to implement the tax strategy.
You have brought so much value. What do you think it would be a good way for somebody to start investing or start working towards building wealth right now?
I think ultimately it just comes down to making the decision. And once you've made the decision that you want to invest for the future, that's the first hardest thing. And then again, going back to the cash flow and identifying, okay, what would be a comfortable amount that I could allocate on a monthly basis? And then what I like to encourage, and everybody has their own way of doing things. This just happens to be my way. I believe in purpose-driven financial planning. And we talked about it a little earlier with, the rudderless ship. And so in my opinion, it's important to identify the money story, identifying what the core values are, what it is that you are intending to create, what it is that you are called to do as an individual or as a family, who it is that you intend to be a blessing to. And then with that in mind, then let that be your North Star. And that way, whatever investment decisions you make, you know that is where you're heading. That is your intention.
That is a good way to end this conversation. What is an advice that you will give your younger self in regards of money?
Oh, I think about that a lot. Well, I shared with you about my money story, and so having witnessed my immigrant parents, especially my mother, with the challenges that she experienced firsthand. And so, early on, especially as a young mom, I had a lot of concerns about saving enough. Mm-hmm. And so for a long time, I withheld experiences. And so, it was just more important for me to build up my savings than to do anything. And so, if I could go back 20 years and tell myself, it's going to be okay, just take the discipline and take the steps, and it will, as long as you make those disciplined steps, you'll be fine. So I think just having that peace of mind, knowing that the discipline would help to achieve the goals and to stress out a little less.
Yeah.
Relax a little bit. My grandfather I have very vivid memories of my grandfather telling me, so my childhood nickname is Bibi. Mm-hmm. And my grandfather used to say, tranquila, Bibi, tranquila. And so the translation is just calm, just be calm. It's okay, just be calm. And so if I could go back and tell my younger self, I would say the same thing.
That is a beautiful message to end this podcast. What it would be an easy way for somebody to reach out to you if they need help building their wealth or wealth planning? How can somebody reach out to you?
Yeah, we are on all the social media platforms. Well, most of the social media platforms, Instagram, Facebook, LinkedIn, our website. So company is Every Season Wealth Partners. You can call our office. For us, we feel very highly about being a gift and a blessing to our community. And it's important for us to give back. And so whether or not we are in alignment to work together, we certainly want to be a blessing. And so happy to be a resource. And if there is alignment to work together, so happy to come alongside.
Is there any preparation that somebody needs to do before reaching out to you?
I would just say, to determine whether or not someone is actually ready to engage with a wealth advisor, I think that it can feel intimidating to communicate with someone. To bear the reality of our financial situation can be a very intimate process. And so it would just be asking yourself the question, am I willing to be transparent and open? And also, am I the type of person who desires guidance? For us, like I mentioned earlier, there are some individuals who are very happy being independent and they kind of operate on their own and do their own thing. And we're happy that they do that. And then there's others who truly want someone who guides them and truly want someone who can be an accountability partner or someone who can help them to build up confidence or to provide strategy. So asking ourselves the question, are we the type of people who want someone to come alongside us and guide us? And if that answer is yes, and they are willing to step into that relationship, then we are happy to engage. We are very much planning focused. So we start with financial planning, and that very much is on an ongoing basis. And then the investments are just the implementation process of that. So if someone is interested in the planning part and then implementing the investments, then we could potentially be a good fit.
So what are all of the services that you provide?
Financial planning is the lead, and then naturally the implementation of the investments. And so as part of our financial planning process, for those who engage us in that, we also do, like we talked about, tax planning. So we evaluate the tax situation and we build strategies to incorporate good, healthy tax benefits. And then the vehicles that we use from an investment implementation process vary. So we talked about what ifs earlier. So one of the things that we do in the planning part is we identify all the things that we know and all the things that we expect. And that is the easy part. The not so easy part is the unexpected, right? It is the things that happen in life that we don't see coming. And so part of our financial planning process is planning for those what ifs. And so other strategies can come into play, such as insurance, estate planning. We refer out for estate planning. So we will bring in other financial professionals to help establish a trust or a will or whatever it is that is necessary in that scenario. But really, truly making sure that any possibility is evaluated and that there is an agreement and a plan in place. So as far as our offering is concerned, we like to look at ourselves as though we are creating the blueprint, and then we we bring in other contractors to come in and build the things. So if a trust needs to be built, then we bring in another financial professional. If someone is building a rental portfolio, we would bring in a real estate professional and a lending professional and a property manager. And so we would then bring in those professionals who can speak into those areas.
That is so awesome that you created like a whole. You might not see it that way, but the way that you are describing it is, I see it. Like you guys are the center and you have the different routes that brings everything to a halt. So in any way that the client is deciding to go, you are able, like you are there to hold them to whatever they need. So I love that. Thank you so much for being here.
My pleasure. Thank you for having me.
Yeah.
It's an honor.
I had such a great conversation with you.
Likewise. Thank you, Stephanie.